Morning.
Okay, so before we start diving into our content, I'm going to share with you that my superpower of someone having a meltdown crisis and needing me is going to be invoked. Someone is going to text me and have their hair on fire between now and 8:20. I'm just telling you. So anyway, what are we talking about this morning? Jennifer.
Interest. The interest in interest.
Yes. There's a lot of interest about
It is.
interest rates right now. Lots of interest. Okay. So we are guilty of this to a small degree with our broadcasts. All right. But by and large, I think we're not really the people I'm pointing my finger at, my crooked little finger at. There's something that real estate brokers should really stop doing, and that is they should stop using the undulating nature of interest rates to create an artificial urgency about acting. Now, the fact of the matter is the best thing you can do to get your house sold in this market is to list it because it's a hot market. But the between the lines idea that if rates go, for example, over 4%, that you will have missed out on Carnival is disingenuous, and it harms the profession. Okay. And I'll tell you why. The boomers that we like to pick on, who had everything easier, when they came of age in the 70s and the 80s, do you know what interest rates they were paying when they bought their first house for $6.12? Because real estate prices were so inexpensive back then. They were paying 15%, 18%, 20% for their mortgages back in the late 70s and the early 80s. All right. Now, property values were lower, but as boomers came of age from the mid 70s into the 80s, interest rates went bananas. You could go to a bank and you could put your money in a savings account and earn 5 or 6% because the banks were earning 18 or 20% on mortgages, right? Now, rates were 18 and 20%. People were still living indoors. People were still buying homes and selling homes. Property values were still going up. New construction and new subdivisions were still being built. And in short, the market still progressed because interest rates are not what influences demand for people to buy and sell property. You know what influences demand to buy and sell property?
Tell us, Phil.
I would say, well, the biggest thing is the uterus. All right. The biggest economic factor for real estate is the uterus because people are still going to put down roots. They're still going to have babies. They're still going to go on to high school. They're still going to downsize after the kids move out. Okay.
Ooh,
People are still.
The GOAT, Sammy Knight. This is one of the best brokers in the industry.
Sammy, am I right? Am I right?
I think he agrees.
We're not going to become a society of Bedouin nomads living in tents and trailers just because the fucking rates went up. Get over yourselves. All right? It's just a fact. We lived it. We weren't toddlers. We were 15 at Sammy was there, right? My older brother was there, right? Property values still spiked. $35,000 houses in 1975 became $200,000 houses in the late 80s, even though the interest rates were bananas.
Okay. But a little bit on the flip side here. You have people. We've had a low inventory market for 5 years. in our market.
Easily.
That's probably, yeah, easily. And you have first-time home buyers who started, some of them 5 years ago, and that price point just kept slipping away from them, they were picky in the beginning, no, this isn't the right house, this isn't that, picky, 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 and then that price point keeps slipping and slipping, and then it gets more and more difficult. So that price point has completely changed for what you can go look at to what you can afford. And then having interest rates rise on top of that really cuts them off at the knees. So
In a
I think
vacuum, it
there's a
does.
difference between, had we created some urgency, good morning, Jen. Had we created some urgency 5 or 6 years ago, some of these home buyers would not be in the predicament they are today. They spent the first few years just having that price point keep getting ripped out from underneath them. And now it's just like really crazy.
No, you're 100% correct. Prices continue to rise, but I'll give you a reason why prices continue to spike. And a lot of it has to do because we are creating our own bubble by artificially suppressing interest rates. I wrote a blog post about this 5 or 6 years ago when they went below 5 or something like that. We're creating our own bubble by manipulating rates, because if you are refinancing as a organic shift in life, might be like in your 50s, kids are grown, it's time to downsize. But you know what? You just refinanced into a 2.75% rate. And at that rate, you know what? You'll stay a little bit longer. You'll put up with heating a bigger house or mowing a lawn that you don't really want to mow anymore, because you know what? Why would you let go of that plum interest rate? So the only way to convince that guy with the 2.75% interest rate to sell is to throw more money at them. And that's exactly what we've done. If I were a buyer, and this is extremely counterintuitive, I would want rates to rise, because that would arrest values to a more stable level. And I would be able to actually compete on a level playing field, because what we're seeing here is a caricature, and it is nuts. People are selling houses for $50,000 and $75,000 over asking price. Okay, the appraisers can't keep up with it. All right,
that is $50,000 or $70,000 over the asking price it would have been pre-pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. Even the asking prices right now, everything's a bidding war. Yeah. Everything's a bidding war. That listing that I had in Putt Lake, we couldn't sell it 5 years ago for $175. It didn't have a certificate of occupancy. Everybody ran away from it, and somebody just bought it for $240. We raised the price.
I didn't get a certificate of occupancy.
Said, yeah, no CO, no certificate of occupancy, and it sold for $70,000 higher for what we couldn't sell it for before because of the nuts market. Now, if rates start to go to a normal place, 4 or 5%, which is still historically amazing, prices will become stable. They'll stop being so volatile up. They'll stop spiking the way they're spiking, because this is an unsustainable thing. That's not a bubble per se. And yes, the thing that exacerbated it also was the foreclosure moratorium, and you can't keep the sellers honest if they're not competing with any distress. But there is an argument, and a strong one. There is a strong historical argument to be made that rates having a normal cadence of rising and falling, all right? And sometimes, and I'm including rising, we haven't seen rates rise in 20 years. Rising rates will stabilize prices, and that will enable buyers to actually afford a home. Okay, there is a strong case to be made for that. It is supported by historical evidence, and is supported by the laws of supply, demand, economics, and so forth. Okay, if you're a buyer, you should hold out hope that within the next 6 to 9 months, the next year, you'll be able to move You'll be able to buy that first home. You'll be able to have babies. You'll be able to do the things you want to do to put down roots, because prices will stabilize, because the rates will keep them honest.
I got to put this one back.
Go for it.
I could hear Sammy saying it. He's one of the new coaches for Chet Black Select.
Okay. All right. So, kaboom, you are right. Well, we like it when, look, it's better.
Barbecue.
Oh, really? You like Korean barbecue?
No, he cooks a mean barbecue.
Oh, okay. Well, Korean barbecue is pretty mean too.
Yes.
After Mark had his tournament yesterday, his mother had Korean barbecue for him. So I'm happy. I'm happy for him. So yeah, all of the suggestions that if you don't act now, the rising rates will have you miss out. I think that is it's too much carnival barking. I don't think it edifies our industry. All right. Yeah, me too. I mean, it's pretty good. I have to say Korean barbecue is pretty good.
Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning, Barbara.
Barbara's my much missed friend, Jimmy Reetz's wife.
Oh, yeah.
And my biggest fan. Love you, Barbara.
I remember Jimmy. Now you know I met him a few times, but I remember being at the ribbon cutting in Putnam, and I'm like, oh, he's my height.
Yes, we had that in common. Both great men of very short stature.
Yep.
Love you too, Barbara.
So it's true that if rates rise, you're not going to see prices skyrocket, perhaps. However, rates went bananas in the 70s and 80s, and prices kept going up. Now, if rates rise and people can make money in their savings account, we might see more people saving money.
Now, let me ask you this. What is your opinion on these first-time home buyers that have been around for 5 years that haven't quite? Do you think that this rates going up is going to sort of resolve the housing crisis? Or do you think we're going to end up like Sweden? I mean, Sweden has so many great things for young people. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, except for housing. Actually, finding any kind of housing in Sweden is like Hunger Games. It is like Hunger Games.
So Mike Canero grew up across the street from me. He is my late brother Paul's absolute best friend. And his father was such a wonderful man, just great family. And Anthony Canero, great man, was offered an incentive from the bank to pay off his mortgage early. I don't know why they would do that, but he was making more money in the bank, right? So if we have more people saving because there's an incentive to earn more money on your money just in the savings account, which is great liquidity. I mean, it's nice to be liquid. Trust me, it's really nice to be liquid, as I recall. That will have good ripple effects as well. Okay. So it's a little bit of a carnival barking scheme to use the rates to kind of insinuate that the sky is going to fall if people don't act now just because rates are rising. That is just not historically supported. I don't think the laws of economics really support it, and it doesn't really make us look good. It creates pressure. The pressure to buy a home is already there. You understand? The pressure to sell your home, buy a home, move, it's already there based on what we call, and we've talked about this, right? The 12 Ds, right? Diapers, having a baby, death certificate, daiquiris, diplomas, right? Diamonds, getting engaged. We have these 12 Ds. These are all reasons that people move.
But I go back and ask you those buyers. So, do you think that interest rates are going to level the playing field where they can afford?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Or has it come to a place where first-time home buyers, you may have to simplify a little bit more. You may have to get into a two-family.
Well, that horse is already out of the barn, though, Jen. Yeah. We've already created a diaspora of our generation already here. So I grew up in Ossining. None of the guys that I grew up with live in town anymore. They've all moved to more affordable housing. And that's happened over the past 30 years. The people I graduated high school and college with, mostly high school, they moved up north to Dutchess and Orange counties. They moved to Connecticut, and they moved to down south where the cost of living was less expensive. So that is already happening. So people will either change location, or they will buy a smaller home, or they will figure something else out. A multifamily house is a good idea for some people. Okay. It's, rising rates is not going to fix everything. It's not going to fix anything, but it's not going to harm things the way that many people in our industry suggest. Right?
I guess that's where I come from when I talk about creating urgency with buyers, but a message that is a little too late.
Well, there's a value in creating urgency that is authentic. Okay. If someone says, I don't want to put my house on the market until May because I've heard spring is when you sell your house, they're missing the point. Spring's a good time to close. Right?
My front yard, literally the grass has this much ice. It is, you could ice skate, no exaggeration, in my front yard right now. Never mind flowers. But if I put this house on the market, thanks, Sammy. Thank you so much for joining. If I put my house on the market right now, it would go way over asking price. And, but without any questions asked, I don't know I know prices are going to keep going up, but I don't know that that's going to happen come May, come June. We just don't know. It's kind of a lot of unknowns in the world right now.
There's so much pent up demand.
Yep.
That even if inventory were to double and rates were to double, there's enough demand to chew it up and eat it up right now.
Yeah, but I don't feel like painting my door red, and I don't feel like
you don't have to.
Right. But that may start to soften. That it
may soften a little bit. I mean, it is a good idea to declutter. It's a good idea to clean your litter box, right? I mean, it's a good idea to do some of those things, but do you have to stand on your head? Do you have to do a bunch of crazy things just to make your house perfect? It's right now we're not in a beauty contest and we're not in a price war. It's neither one, and it's not going to be that way for quite some time. And there's no change to interest rates that's going to change that dynamic in the foreseeable future. Right now, there's so much pent up demand. Like I said, inventory could double right now. It would all get munched up. Now, it can't keep doubling and doubling and doubling, right?
All right, but so we got to wrap up.
Oh, we got to wrap up. We have 2 minutes. We have
less than 2 minutes because we always go over. And then
because we got the bumper thingy?
Yeah.
All right. So to our colleagues, I would say, don't lean on interest rates quite so much to create urgency. There's plenty of urgency already, and you don't have a crystal ball, and stop acting like you have one, but we can invoke historical example and economics, right? Just basic economics to know that if interest rates move, that the sky's not going to fall. That's it. That is my treatise on interest rates this morning.
All right. Everybody have a fantastic week, and we'll see you
next argument?
Week. I have a little bit of an argument, but we'll save it for next week.
We're going to argue later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll argue all day, more than likely.
We have other things to argue about.
Be on May 8:30.